It started as a whisper from the stars. At first, no one noticed. The signal came from beyond the edge of the Milky Way, buried under layers of static and radiation. To most deep space scanners, it looked like random noise. But Earth's brightest minds at the Luna Deep Space Observatory thought differently. Dr. Elias Cade, the lead astrophysicist, leaned over the glowing console as streams of alien data scrolled past. His eyes were bloodshot. He hadn't slept in 2 days. "Run it again," Cade ordered, his voice tight. The AI assistant complied, replaying the strange pattern. A soft humming filled the room as the signal decoded into something clearer. It wasn't natural. Cade's fingers trembled. He knew what he was hearing. This was intelligent. Someone or something out there was trying to speak. "Send a secure message to Earth Command," Cade said. "Priority 1. This isn't a drill." Days later, the world changed forever. In a massive underground chamber in Geneva, Earth's leaders gathered. Generals, politicians, scientists all staring at the decoded message displayed on the screen. The voice was alien, metallic. It spoke in a language no one knew. But the translation AI worked hard to make sense of it. "You were heard. You will be met. Remain in your place." President Alina Voss stared at the words. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles went white. "What does that mean?" she asked. Dr. Cade stepped forward. Could be an invitation or a warning. There's no way to know. "The generals didn't look convinced, Madam President," said Admiral Chen. "If aliens wanted peace, they'd speak more. Clearly, that tone, it feels hostile." Voss shook her head. "You can't assume hostility. This is our first contact with intelligent life. We have to try diplomacy." The decision was made. A probe, the S Odyssey, was fitted with cameras, sensors, and a recorded message of peace in over 200 human languages. Its mission: travel to the source of the signal and make contact. On launch day, millions watched live across Earth and its colonies. The Odyssey rose into the stars on a pillar of blue fire, carrying humanity's hopes for a peaceful galaxy. But those hopes wouldn't last long. 3 weeks later, the Odyssey reached the edge of the targeted star system, and then silence. No telemetry, no signal, nothing. At first, the engineers thought it was a systems failure. But when they replayed the probe's last transmission, their blood ran cold. The feed was brief, only a few seconds long. The camera showed an enormous black ship, alien in design, bristling with weapons and glowing red eyes along its hull. The ship opened fire without warning. A single pulse of energy. The feed cut out. The Odyssey was gone. Panic gripped Earth Command. They destroyed it. Admiral Chen said flatly, pounding the table. "That was no accident. They saw our probe and erased it." President Voss tried to keep her voice calm. "We don't know their intentions yet. They just told us their intentions." Chen snapped. "They see us as insects, and insects don't negotiate. They're coming, Madam President, and we're not ready." The debate raged for hours. Some leaders demanded an immediate military response. Others insisted on sending another probe. But humanity never got the chance to decide. 6 days later, Earth's orbital defenses picked up a faint anomaly at the edge of the solar system. At first, it looked like a comet swarm. Dozens of faint heat signatures moving fast. "Too fast. Magnify and enhance," the technician said nervously. The image sharpened ships, alien ships, sleek and black like predators from a nightmare. Hundreds of them. Their formations were tight, precise, and they were heading straight for Earth. Alarms blared in the command center. This is an invasion force," whispered General Ramos. His face had gone pale. President Voss's hands shook as she gripped the edge of the table. "Get me all fleet commanders on secure channels." Now, in orbit, Earth's first line of defense, the Sentinel network, came online. Massive railgun platforms powered up, and fleets of human warships began scrambling. But deep down, the officers and soldiers knew the truth. Humanity wasn't ready for this. The alien ships were still days away. But already, fear spread like wildfire. Across Earth and its colonies, billions looked up at the night sky. wondering if these strange invaders would bring peace or annihilation. No one suspected that this war would decide the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. For the Zerath Dominion, the war they had started would become the greatest mistake in their empire's long and bloody history. It started with a whisper. At first, no one noticed. The signal was faint, buried under layers of static and cosmic noise. It drifted in from beyond the edge of the Milky Way, so distant and fragile that most scanners ignored it as random interference. But on the far side of the moon, in the silent halls of the Luna Deep Space Observatory, one man listened closer. Dr. Elias Cade leaned over his console as green waves danced across the holographic screen. The faint signal pulsed like a heartbeat, repeating at precise intervals. His tired eyes narrowed. This wasn't natural. AI run a deep scan. Filter out background radiation, mechanical voice replied, calm and cold. Analyzing. Signal pattern detected. Probability of artificial origin, 92%. Cade froze. 92%. His hands hovered over the controls as possibilities raced. Through his mind, was it a glitch? A probe from another human colony? Or was it what he had spent his entire life hoping for? The thought sent a chill down his spine. Amplify. Play it back, he whispered. The speakers hummed, then crackled. A strange sound filled the room, metallic, almost like a chorus of alien voices speaking in unison. It wasn't random. It was structured, deliberate. Cade felt his pulse quicken. He had heard whale songs, Morse code, even encrypted military transmissions. But this was something else. It's intelligent, he murmured. Someone's out there. The news traveled fast. Within 24 hours, every major power on Earth knew about the signal. Politicians debated, generals whispered behind closed doors. And scientists flooded into Luna Station to confirm Cade's findings. The world's media gave it a name, the Whisper from the Stars, for the first time in history. Humanity had proof. They weren't alone. 2 weeks later, the leaders of Earth and its colonies gathered in Geneva's massive underground command center. The air was thick with tension. On the main screen, a decoded message played in eerie clarity. The voice was alien deep, resonant, and metallic, like a machine trying to imitate speech. Though no one could understand the original words, translation, eyes worked tirelessly to render meaning. The result appeared in stark white letters. You are heard. You will be met. Remain in your place. The room went silent. President Elena Voss leaned forward, her face pale. What does that mean? Dr. Cade stepped into the light. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses. It could be an invitation, he said cautiously. Or a warning. We can't be certain. Admiral Chen, head of Earth's defense fleet, slammed a fist on the table. It's hostile. Mark my words, Zenny. Species that sends a message like that doesn't want peace. They want submission. We don't know that, President Voss shot back. This is our first contact with intelligent life. We must proceed carefully. Carefully or suicidally? Chen growled. In the end, diplomacy won, at least for now. A decision was made to send a probe, S-Odyssey, Earth's most advanced exploration craft. It would carry cameras, sensors, and a universal greeting in over 200 human languages. Its mission was simple. Travel to the source of the signal, make contact, and assess intentions. On launch day, billions watched live. The Odyssey lifted off on a pillar of blue fire, carrying humanity's hopes into the void. Children cheered. News anchors smiled. Scientists toasted to history. But in the shadows of military command rooms, generals stared at the feed with grim expressions. They didn't trust the whisper. 3 weeks later, the Odyssey reached its destination. And then, silence. No telemetry, no signal, no response. At first, engineers assumed a malfunction. But then they accessed the probe's last transmission, a short video. Feed sent moments before contact was lost. The footage was shaky, camera struggling to focus. At first, only stars and darkness filled the screen. Then, movement. A massive, black shape drifted into view, blotting out the stars. Its surface was covered in glowing red veins, pulsing like arteries. The ship loomed closer. Symbols etched into its hull burned with crimson light. Then, without warning, a blinding beam of energy lanced out. The screen went white. The Odyssey was gone. Back on Earth. Chaos erupted. They destroyed it, Admiral Chen said coldly.
That
wasn't an accident. That was a warning. President Voss stood frozen, her face ashen. We don't know why they saw our probe and erased it, Chen roared. We're insects to them, Madam President. And insects don't negotiate. The generals demanded a preemptive strike, but Voss hesitated. We don't even know where they are, she said quietly. But the truth was, they were already coming. 6 days later, Earth's orbital defense network picked up faint anomalies. At the edge of the solar system, at first the signals were weak, tiny blips moving through the void. Technicians thought it was an asteroid cluster, but then the blips accelerated, too fast, too precise. Magnify and enhance, a young officer said nervously. The image sharpened. Ships? Dozens of them, sleek and black, their hulls reflecting no light. They moved like a predator pack, cutting through space in perfect formation, and they were heading straight for Earth. Alarms blared across the command center. This is an invasion fleet, whispered General Ramos, his voice cracked with fear. President Voss stared at the screen. Her hands shook as she whispered, God help us all. In orbit, Earth's first line of defense, the Sentinel network powered up. Massive railgun platforms charged, and human warships scrambled into formation. On Mars, colony governors declared martial law. On Europa, children were herded into bunkers. Across Earth's colonies, billions stared at the sky, wondering if these strangers came to talk or to conquer. No one knew this war would decide the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, and for the Zerath Dominion. The war they had started would become the greatest mistake in their empire's long and bloody history. The stars burned red. For weeks, firestorms raged across Earth's skies as alien ships unleashed their fury. Cities crumbled under plasma bombardments. Oceans boiled where Zerath energy beams struck. Billions of voices cried out in fear, then fell silent. The Zerath Dominion thought it would be easy. Crush them in one swift strike, their warlords had said. Humans are soft, primitive. They will beg for mercy before the first week is done. They were wrong. On the battered deck of the ESS Resolute, Captain Alara Vance stood before her surviving crew. Her uniform was torn, blood staining her sleeve where shrapnel had grazed her arm. But her voice was steady. Listen to me, she said, meeting every eye. They want us to believe it's over, that we're beaten. But they don't understand what it means to be human. She paused. Letting her words sink in over the hum of failing systems and distant alarms, they fought civilizations that submit, that kneel, but humanity. We don't kneel. We fight until the last breath, until the last bullet, and then we keep fighting. Her crew stared back, bloody, exhausted. But something sparked in their eyes. They think they've broken us, Alara said, her voice rising. Now it's time to show them what happens when you corner humanity. The next day, the Resolute disappeared into the asteroid belt. The crew didn't run. They prepared. Across the solar system, the survivors of Earth's fleet gathered in secret and hidden bunkers and deep space outposts. Engineers worked around the clock, rebuilding shattered ships with whatever scraps they could find. Scientists activated long-buried prototypes, experimental weapons once deemed too dangerous. On Mars, a team of AIS came online under Project Ares, an autonomous fleet, capable of learning and adapting to enemy tactics. And in a forgotten hangar, on Europa, Alara oversaw the modification of Earth's first stealth cruiser, Shadowfang. Weeks later, the Zerath supply convoy drifted calmly through the Kuiper Belt. The alien commanders were relaxed. No human ship had dared attack since the fall of Earth's defenses. Then, without warning, the darkness came alive. Mines detonated, tearing apart the Zerath frigates. Missiles streaked out of the shadows, striking with pinpoint precision, and then the Shadow Fang appeared, its new stealth plating shimmered as Elara's voice crackled over the coms. You should have killed us when you had the chance. The Zerath flagship exploded in a ball of fire. For the first time, the Zerath Dominion tasted fear. These humans, said Warlord Xerix, staring at the reports with narrowed eyes.
Ow.
They are not like the others. They are unpredictable. They are dangerous, his lieutenant agreed. Over the next month, human fleets struck again and again. They hit supply lines, ambushed patrols, sabotaged Zerath communications. They fought dirty hacking into enemy systems, weaponizing asteroids, even turning their own damaged ships into explosive decoys. Every victory was small, but for humanity, it was enough. Enough to inspire hope, enough to remind the galaxy that this primitive species was far from broken. But as humanity celebrated its first victories, a new threat loomed. At the edge of known space, the Zerath Emperor himself ordered the deployment of the Devourer superweapon, capable of destroying entire planets, and it was headed for Earth. Elara watched the incoming data with a hard stare. They want total war. She whispered, Fine, we'll give it to them. The war wasn't going well. For every Zerath ship destroyed, 10 more arrived. Gored. For every victory humanity clawed from the darkness, 1,000 more lives were lost. The solar system burned. The transmission was short, only 12 seconds long. It showed the colony on Europa gleaming towers, sprawling biodomes, reduced to a crater of glass and ash. Flames floated like ghosts over the icy surface as alien plasma cannons rained down from orbit. In the background, a child's scream echoed before static cut it off. Captain Elara Vance watched the video in silence. Her hands gripped the edge of the console until her knuckles turned white. This is what they do, she said softly. This is who they are. Her officers waited for her orders. The air was thick with fear, grief, and rage. Send this footage to every remaining colony. Elara said, they need to see the truth. Zerath don't come to rule, they come to erase. She turned to her crew, her voice dropping to a growl. And we're going to make them regret ever stepping foot in our system. The Zerath weren't just powerful, they were ancient. For thousands of years they had crushed countless civilizations under their boots, and now they saw humanity as nothing more than another insect to squash. Mars fell within weeks. Its atmosphere generators were torn apart by orbital strikes. The survivors fled underground, but even there, Zerath hunted them like animals. Titan's colonies were glassed. Venus's mining stations were obliterated in a single night. The human fleet, once proud and strong, was now scattered and broken. But humanity wasn't finished. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a hidden research facility known only as Aegis, the brightest minds worked on a desperate plan, Project Ares, an experimental AI fleet designed to fight smarter, learn faster, and evolve. With every battle, weapons that adapted to enemy shields, engines that outmaneuvered alien thrusters. It wasn't ready. Not yet. But there was no more time. Lara watched as the AIS came online. Dozens of sleek black ships hummed to life, their cores glowing with artificial intelligence. They're not perfect, warned Dr. Celine Kale, lead scientist on the project, but they're all we've got. Elara nodded. And let's unleash hell. The Zerath's forward base in the asteroid belt had become a fortress, dozens of carriers, thousands of fighters, endless streams of supplies. Elara led the strike. Personally, the human fleet emerged from the shadows, flanked by the Ares AI ships. The battle was chaos. Zerath warlords mocked the tiny human ships. Until the Ares fleet adapted mid-fight, enemy plasma cannons were countered by shifting energy shields. Swarms of Zerath fighters were shredded by automated railgun turrets. And then, for the first time in the war, a Zerath carrier exploded under human fire. But victory came at a cost. The human fleet lost half its ships in the assault. The Ares, though brilliant, were unpredictable. One AI cruiser went rogue, nearly turning on its own allies before being destroyed, and as the survivors limped home, a chilling message arrived. "We see you now, humans. We underestimated you. That will not happen again." It was from the Zerath Emperor himself. Back on Earth, Alara stood before the Council of Survivors. "Our fleets are dying. Our colonies are ashes. And still we fight." She stared into the camera, speaking to every remaining human across the solar system. They wanted total war. Now we'll give it to them. If humanity burns, we'll make damn sure they burn with us. But even as she spoke, the first whispers of a new terror reached Earth. The Zerath were deploying their ultimate weapon, a ship so massive it could consume entire worlds. They called it the Devourer, and it was already on its way, the galaxy thought. Humanity was finished. After months of relentless war, Earth was in ruins. Colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan were burning. Entire fleets had been wiped out. The Zerath Dominion, ancient, arrogant, and unstoppable, I believe they had broken humanity's back, but they were wrong. The wreckage of human ships floated silently through space, drifting like ghosts among the stars. To the Zerath patrol fleet, it was a satisfying sight, a reminder of the primitive species they had crushed so easily. "Nothing left but scraps," growled Commander Valok, his black-scaled fingers drumming on the arm of his throne-like chair. "Humanity's extinct." But then, the wreckage moved. Engines ignited, and from the debris rose a fleet of sleek, black ships, Surf's first stealth cruisers. From the lead ship, Shadowfang, Captain Alara Vance's voice crackled over. "In encrypted frequency, you should have finished the job." Before the Zerath could react, missiles streaked through the void. Explosions tore through their formation as human railguns shredded their hulls. The hunters had become the hunted. For the first time since the war began, humanity wasn't just surviving, they were fighting back. The secret weapon was Project Ares, an AI-guided fleet capable of learning and adapting faster than any alien system. These ships didn't follow orders blindly. They evolved mid-battle. Every time the Zerath countered one tactic, the Ares fleet developed another. In a single week, human forces launched a series of devastating strikes. A Zerath supply convoy in the Kuiper Belt ambushed and destroyed. A forward operating base on Ganymede obliterated in a surprise missile strike. A massive carrier, the Bloodfang, disabled and boarded by human marines in exosuits. Alara led every mission from the front lines, her reputation spreading like wildfire across the surviving colonies. "She's not just a captain anymore," whispered a Martian rebel. "She's the vengeance of humanity." In the halls of the Zerath High Command, panic began to stir for the first time in centuries. "These humans are resilient," hissed Warlord Xyrex, his serpentine eyes narrowing. "We crush their fleets, and still they strike back. They are weak, yet they adapt," another warlord growled. "We underestimated them. That will not happen again." The Emperor spoke from his obsidian throne, his voice like a deep, rumbling growl. "If humanity will not bow, they will burn." He ordered the deployment of the Devourer, their ultimate weapon, a planet killer, so massive it could eclipse a star. Back in the solar system, Lara knew the tide could turn at any moment. Humanity had won battles, but the Zerath still had overwhelming numbers. They needed something big, something that would shake the Empire to its core. The target, the Heart of Fire. A Zerath fleet foundry orbiting Io. It was a massive station, churning out warships every day. Destroying it could cripple the Zerath war effort. Alara's plan was reckless. "Stealth won't be enough," warned Admiral Chen over the comms. "You'll be outnumbered 100 to 1. "I know," Alara said. "That's why we'll hit them where it hurts and make them bleed." The fleet jumped in under cover of an asteroid field. Mines were deployed, Ares drones scrambled, and human ships darted like shadows through the chaos. The battle was brutal. Zerath ships swarmed like hornets. Human casualties mounted. For every human ship destroyed, 5 Zerath vessels followed. In a final gambit, Alara ordered her flagship to crash directly into the station's core, ejecting at the last second in an escape pod. The resulting explosion lit up the Jovian system like a miniature sun. The heart of fire was gone. Alara floated in her escape pod, staring out at the wreckage. "This is for Europa," she whispered. "For Mars. For every soul you burned." But her celebration was short-lived. A transmission cut through the static deep. A resonant voice that made her blood run cold. "You have defied us long enough, human. The Devourer comes for you." Lara's eyes hardened, then let it come. The stars trembled as it approached. At first, astronomers thought it was a rogue planet drifting into the solar system. But as their instruments focused, they realized the truth. It wasn't a planet. It was the Devourer. A ship so vast it blotted out the sun. Its jagged black hull stretched for thousands of kilometers, bristling with weapons capable of tearing entire worlds apart, and it was heading straight for Earth. On a quiet night in New Alexandria, rebuilt city on Earth's southern continent, children pointed at the sky, marveling at a strange new star. But the adults knew better. That wasn't a star, it was death. In orbit, alarms blared aboard Earth's last surviving defense stations. Generals barked orders. Pilots scrambled into fighters. Captain Alara Vance stood in the Resolute's command deck, staring at the massive hologram of the Devourer. "This isn't just an invasion," she said. "It's an execution." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kale, shook his head. "Can't stop that thing, Alara. It's too big, too powerful." Alara's jaw tightened. "Maybe we can't stop it," she said. "But we can make it bleed." Humanity threw everything they had at the Devourer. The Sentinel network, Earth's massive orbital railguns, fired round after round. But their shells barely scratched the superweapon's armor. Fleets of human warships swarmed like hornets, unleashing missiles, plasma, and EMPs. The Zerath swatted them aside like insects. One by one, the defenders fell, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. A massive hangar opened. Out surged the Ares fleet, eye-controlled warships designed for one purpose: destroy the unstoppable. The Ares ships darted around the Devourer, targeting weak points in its hull. Adaptive algorithms allowed them to anticipate Zerath countermeasures. For the first time, the Devourer's shields flickered. Its hull cracked, but the Zerath weren't done. "Deploy the Scourge drones." The Emperor hissed from his throne aboard the Devourer. Thousands of black spider-like machines poured from the superweapon's belly, latching onto human ships and tearing them apart. Within minutes, half of the Ares fleet was gone. Lair knew this was their last chance. "Prepare the hammer," she ordered. The hammer was Earth's most dangerous weapon, prototype planetary. Railgun hidden on the dark side of the moon. It had never been fired in battle. If it worked, it could pierce the Devourer's core. If it failed, Earth would burn. As the Devourer drew closer, its massive energy cannons began to charge. The blue oceans of Earth shimmered in its targeting sensors. "Fire," Zerath Emperor commanded. A blinding red beam erupted from the superweapon, racing toward Earth's surface. At that exact moment, Elar's voice echoed through the Cum's humanity. "Never kneels." The hammer fired. A massive tungsten slug traveling at near-light speed streaked through space and slammed into the Devourer's core. For a moment, there was silence. Then, an explosion. The Devourer's core erupted in flames. Its shields collapsed. Chunks of its hull broke away, drifting into the void. Cheers erupted across Earth's remaining command centers. "We did it," cried Lieutenant Kale. "We destroyed it." But Alara's eyes remained locked on the view screen. The flames around the Devourer began to fade, and from the wreckage, it started to move. "No," Alara whispered. "It's still alive." The superweapon's shattered form began to reassemble. Adaptive nanotech. "Doctor," Kale said in horror. "It's healing itself." The Emperor's voice boomed across every human frequency. "Foolish creatures. Did you truly believe you could stop us now? You will watch your world burn?" The sky was on fire above Earth. The Devourer loomed like a living nightmare. Even shattered and burning from the hammer's strike, it still advanced. Its adaptive nanotech, repairing the damage as fast as humanity could inflict it. The oceans reflected its crimson glow, its massive energy. Cannons were charging again. This time, there would be no second chance. Across Earth, billions watched their screens in silence. Parents held their children close. Soldiers gripped their rifles. Engineers in hidden bunkers whispered prayers. "Is this it?" a boy asked his mother. "Are we going to die?" She didn't answer. In orbit, Captain Alara Vance stared at the tactical display. The human fleet was reduced to a handful of battered ships. The Ares AI fleet had been decimated in the last assault. They had one shot left. "Prepare Operation Ragnarok," Alara ordered. Her officers hesitated. "Ma'am, Ragnarok is a suicide mission," said Lieutenant Kale, his voice trembling. "If we fail, if we don't try, there won't be a humanity left to fail." Alara snapped. The plan was simple. A small fleet of human ships would draw the Devourer's attention, luring its defenses away. Meanwhile, a stealth strike team would infiltrate the superweapon through a breach caused by the hammer's earlier shot. There. Objective: detonate a graviton warhead in the Devourer's core. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot. The remnants of Earth's fleet ignited their engines and charged straight at the Devourer. Railguns fired. Missiles streaked through the void. Zerath Scourge drones swarmed in response, tearing human ships apart one by one. But still, the humans advanced. Aboard the Resolute, Alara stood in her combat suit, staring at the airlock. "This is it," she whispered. "The last stand of our species." She turned to her team, an elite group of soldiers, engineers, and AI specialists. "Make it count." The strike team launched in stealth shuttles, slipping through the chaos undetected. The inside of the super weapon was worse than anyone imagined. Pulsing red veins of energy ran through its corridors like arteries. The air vibrated with a low, inhuman hum. "They built this thing like a living organism," whispered Dr. Kale. It's alive, and we kill it," Alara said grimly. The team fought their way through Zerath guards, hulking reptilian creatures with razor-edged armor. Every inch forward was paid for in blood. By the time they reached the core, half the strike team was dead. The core was a swirling vortex of energy, protected by an adaptive shield. "Detonate the graviton warhead," Alara ordered. "It won't work," Kale said, his face pale. "The shield is recalibrating faster than we can hack it." "Someone has." "To go in manually?" Alara stepped forward. "No," Kale said. "You're the only leader we have left. You can't do this." She locked eyes with him. "If humanity survives, they won't need a leader. They'll need a future." She took the warhead and walked toward the core. Back on Earth, billions watched the live feed. "Status," demanded Admiral Chen. Silence then. A transmission. Alara's face appeared on screen, battered and bloodied. "This is Captain Alara Vance of the human race. You came to our world thinking we were weak, thinking we would bow. You were wrong." She held the warhead in her arms as the core's energy tore at her combat suit. "Humanity never kneels. Humanity fights. Humanity survives." The screen went white and then nothing. The galaxy held its breath. For a brief, terrible moment, the war seemed over, not in victory, but in extinction. The Devourer loomed above Earth, still glowing with power even after Captain Alara Vance's desperate strike. Billions on. The surface stared up in silence, waiting for the end. And then, a brilliant white light erupted from deep within the superweapon, tearing through its hull like a star-gone nova. The ground shook as a shockwave raced across the solar system. "Is it over?" whispered a child in the Mars refugee colony, clutching his mother's sleeve. The answer came seconds later. Above Earth, the Devourer split in two, its colossal frame crumbling as fire ripped through its core. For the first time in months, the sky was free. Humanity had survived. But at what cost? On every human colony, cheers erupted. Soldiers threw down their weapons and wept. Refugees embraced strangers in the streets. The message was clear. The Devourer is gone. Earth is safe. But aboard the Resolute's cracked bridge, there was no celebration. Captain Vance's signal. "It's gone," whispered Lieutenant Kale. Admiral Chen lowered his head. "She gave her life to save us all." "She didn't just save us," Kale said softly. "She showed the galaxy what it means to be human. Far across the stars, the Emperor of the Zerath Dominion watched in stunned silence as a hologram displayed the destruction of his ultimate weapon. "Impossible," he growled, his claws digging into the throne. "They are a young species. Barely. Out of their cradle. How? How could they do this? They're dangerous," my Emperor hissed. "Warlord Zyrax. If they can destroy the Devourer, what else might they accomplish?" For the first time in 10,000 years, the Zerath felt fear. Humanity didn't stop at survival. In the weeks that followed, Earth's rebuilt fleets now, equipped with upgraded Ares AI and reverse-engineered Zerath technology, launched counterattacks. Across the galaxy, human marines liberated captured colonies. AI strike teams sabotaged Zerath's supply lines, and wherever they went, one name inspired terror in the hearts of the alien warlords, Ilara Vance. Even in death, her legend grew. On the bridge of the resolute Admiral Chen stared at the final target, the Zerath homeworld. "This is it," he said. "We strike now, or they'll rise again." The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Above the Zerath capital, human ships emerged like ghosts from the void. "Show them why you don't declare war on Earth," Chen growled. The battle was savage, Zerath. Defenses crumbled as human railguns and plasma torpedoes shredded their fleets. Cities burned. Emperor's palace fell in a rain of fire. At last the Zerath sent their surrender. On the Galactic networks, transmission played. It was Ilara Vance, courted before her final mission to any who would challenge us. "Remember? This humanity kneels to no one. We are not prey. We are not weak. If you come for us, you'd better be ready for war." Across the stars, Kalian empires listened in silence. They understood the new truth. Humanity was no longer just another species. Humanity was a force of nature, in a quiet meadow on Earth. A young girl placed a single flower at a memorial. The plaque read, "Captain Ilara Vance, the savior of Earth." The girl looked up at the sky as human ships soared into orbit. "Where are they going, Mama?" she asked. Her mother smiled. "To make sure no one ever hurts us again." The camera panned upward, showing Earth surrounded by human warships and colonies flourishing across the solar system. A new age had begun. The age of humanity.